Hey guys, did hear back from Lowe's. They decided to take $150 off the purchase so that I could get it repaired on the outside, which is kind of whack because it's brand new. And I guess the big problem was they don't have another one in stock at the store I bought it from or any other local stores. So I accepted their offer and started to pull it apart to see what's going on. Now this kind of concerns me because it's supposed to be a new machine, and forgive my ridiculous working area, but I pulled off the carburetor, which actually isn't too bad to do. 10mm wrench socket, you can do the entire thing. Pair of pliers to get this clamp off right here on the fuel line. And I have this nifty little, I don't use it much, that's why it's rusted, but from Mac Tools. It's sort of a pinch device that you use for blocking off fuel lines, coolant lines, whatever you need to not leak all over the place. So it's just pressure release. There's no magic or tricks. You just clamp it down and then pry it apart with your hands when you're ready to undo it. And that works really good because right now, of course, the fuel tank is full. So what I found was, and I looked at the fuel line routing, make sure there were no kinks anywhere and so forth, but I pulled the carburetor off and then I dropped the bowl off the carb, which again is a 10mm, and I'm going to try and place this so that you can see it. And this doesn't make any sense, like I said, for what's supposed to be a new machine. And I don't know if this is going to pick it up or not. But the bottom of this carburetor bowl is full of sediment. From where? Clueless. Unless the metal that makes the carburetor bowl up is so cheap that it just is coming apart. I really don't know. But what I'm going to do is get this all cleaned up. I'll grab my air compressor and blow through the carburetor ports and air bleeds and stuff like that. Get it all back together and see what happens. So today is February 2nd, and we're in the middle of this ridiculous snowstorm. Possibly 2 feet plus of snow where I live. Not too far from Elk Mountain Ski Resort in Northeast PA. But I don't have any carburetor cleaner handy, 2+2 gum out, anything like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I've done this before, so don't laugh too hard. I'm going to boil some water and take all of the rubber and paper gaskets off of the carburetor. I'm going to mix it with some Dawn dish soap after the water is boiling, and then I'm going to submerge the entire assembly in it. I'm going to clean it up real good, blow some compressed air through everything, and once I'm satisfied, I'll put it back together and we'll see what happens. So here's the carburetor body. I took off the float, the needle, and not the seat, but the needle. And again, here it's got this corrosion. I don't know what, why, how. Obviously it's been used because of that paperwork I received. I can't tell if the little jet in there is clogged or not, but that's what my guess is a bunch of that crap got, and I'm sure you can't see it, but in this hole right here there's a removable jet, and you can change that with different jets to change the fuel flow, fuel rate, so to speak. This was really big on old school Holley carburetors. You rejet it, so to speak, to increase or decrease the fuel flow depending on what kind of engine you built. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and do what I was saying. Going to get some water and Dawn going, submerge this, clean it up real good with an old toothbrush, and Then I'm going to blow compressed air through it. All of these little ports, every place I can blow air that is actually internal to the carburetor, the needle and seat, the jet, and so forth. And we're going to get this thing as clean as we can get it. Then we're going to reassemble it. And I'll show you real quick how it comes apart, but it will be on the reverse side, the assembly. Okay, so we're back. And this water was boiling a few minutes ago, and we're using Dawn Platinum, stuff they clean ducks with. And we're going to put a liberal amount in there. The old toothbrush. And we're going to start with the bowl. Let's get that rubber O-ring off, clean it up a little bit here. We don't want to distort that. That's going to be a problem if it does get ruined. We don't want fuel leaking. And yeah, we're going to clean the outside. Not that it needs it, but because I'm anal. The water's pretty warm, obviously. And you're going to want to, if you're doing this, you're going to want to get as much of the yuck out as you can so that you don't have this problem in the very near future. And I can tell you the bottom of this bowl is pitted now. What a way to start a relationship with a brand new machine, huh? So probably, if it was, I know they're cheap, but if it was convenient, I would probably just replace the carburetor. I already looked them up and they're very inexpensive, $26 or something. And you can see the crap that's coming out of this bowl. But I'm sure it's non-American made and it's a crappy metal. And with the ethanol in the fuel, maybe it sat for a long time and got some moisture in it. All of those things are just bad for cheap things like carburetors. Alright, so that came out pretty good. The hold down screw has a little bit of stuff on the top I don't want getting back into the fuel. So we'll clean that. Burn my fingers real quick. And then we'll get to the carburetor. There are some plastic parts on here, but we're going to be okay because obviously the water is not boiling anymore. And it's pretty close to the carburetor, the muffler on this application. So I would hope that it's made of a material, after seeing the ball I kind of wonder, that it's made of a material that will withstand this heat. But we're going to find out. Worst case scenario, I just won't be able to use this until I get a new carburetor. I mean, if this was a $300 or $400 carburetor, I may be doing things a bit differently. I might wait to go out and get carb cleaner, 2+2 gum cutter, whatever. But it's very inexpensive. It's just the time out to delivery that's an issue. And I don't think that I can get too much done with just a toothbrush on a carburetor anyway. So, and it may spit and sputter a bit when it first starts because of the moisture that's in here, but we're going to try and get rid of as much of that as we can. With some air. And as I said before, we're going to hit every port, every jet. gaskets. When you take the gaskets off of this, they're paper gaskets, and they're very fragile. I did not want to make or go look for new gaskets, so I was very careful. As a matter of fact, I used a single-edge razor blade to free it up, and because it's a new machine, it was pretty successful. We're going to blow air through every port, every hole, every nook, every frame, because I don't want to do this a second time. So let's put this back together and see what happens. Alright guys, let's get this back together. And you have your return spring and your throttle control, governor control, whichever, here. And just give that a little bit of a tweak to push that in. And then put your spring back on here, which is easier said than done. I need a pair of pliers. So that's what you're looking for. Your throttle linkage goes in this top hole and your spring goes in this bottom hole. Now notice there's these little inserts in here, in this plastic cover, one for each stud, that keep you from over tightening the screws and crushing it. Make sure they're back in place when you put this together. Put the 10mm nuts back on. And when we tighten this down, it's going to be snug, but it's not going to be ridiculous. And once I do this, the next thing I'm going to do is put the fuel line back on and see if this bowl is going to leak. Before I get stupid and put everything back together and find out I have to take everything back apart. And again, tighten these down kind of equally so that you don't have too much tension on one side and not as much on the other. So we'll get this fuel line back on. And then we're going to take this apart, or open it, and see if we have a leak at the bowl. Okay, excellent. I'm surprised. I really thought that was going to leak. Like I said, that O-ring is just a very poor fit. So then we'll get the clamp back on this fuel line. And we're going to just watch this for a second and make sure we don't have a leak. So far so good. I don't see anything dribbling out anywhere. Now on the inside of this cover, this primer bulb has this fuel line coming off of it, and that goes right here on this little black plastic nipple. So we're going to connect that. Like I said, I don't see any leaks, so I think we're going to be okay here. The wiring, there's a little plastic holder, so to speak, here, and the wiring for the switch goes there. And I twisted this up, so let me take that back off, get it on the other side. Although to be fine, it's annoying to know that it's like that. Okay, so that's back on, and we're going to get the wire in place. and then this primer bulb hose in place, which goes on the other one that's just a little bit wider on the top. And they don't give you boatloads of room to do this, so you just kind of have to muddle through it, so to speak. Then after a little bit of finesse, this cover is back in place, and the 10mm screws that held it all together go next. One goes in front, and then another one kind of is hidden back in here. So we will need an extension just to make life easier. And that goes right up here on the top, so to speak. And again, when I tighten these down, I'm not going to make them super tight. I don't want to distort or break anything. They'll be snug, but not super tight. And you're probably going to want to keep an eye on them to make sure they don't rattle loose. The fuel's been connected for a few minutes now. I don't see any leaks anywhere, so I really took my time putting that O-ring back on the fuel bowl to make sure that it was good to go. And apparently it was time well spent. And then your choke lever, you're going to want this pointing towards the front of the machine. Just give it a little spin until you feel where it's supposed to go. Which is there. Work it a few times, work everything a few times to make sure it works like it's supposed to. And now we're all back together, so we're going to take it outside and start it up and see if this was worth it. Alright, so we're going to put the key in. It comes with two, by the way, and my lighting device, because somebody complained on one of my other videos that I need a cameraman and light. So I tried to increase the lighting with a flashlight. We'll pump the primer bulb a couple of times. And then we'll set the choke all the way, and then we'll hope it starts. I guess I should put it on run instead of stop. Just took the choke all the way off, which in the past would make the engine stall. We're going to let it run for a few minutes just to see if it starts surging again or stalling when it gets hot. Guys, it looks like that took care of it. I let it sit out here on idle for 5 or 6 minutes, warm it up, and prior to today, it would definitely be surging. This is the backyard, it's over grass, and you see that it's actually working pretty well. So yeah, I'm happy now. The electric start, I did not show this in video, but this didn't work either. When I took it apart, they had a connector unplugged. Plugged it in, the electric start works. But honestly, this engine starts pretty darn easy, so I don't think that I'm going to be needing the electric start. And honestly, the other thing that happened is there's a pin up here on the chute control that fell out. I replaced it with a cotter pin that I had around here. Never going to fall out again. Quick fix. But still, for a brand new machine, you shouldn't be fixing anything. So guys, I hope this helps somebody. Any questions, give me a heads up and I'll do the best I can to answer them. Enjoy your snowy northeast weather today and have a great day. And we'll talk soon. Thanks.